down. Let's make it our business. A climate podcast that's about innovators, change makers, and entrepreneurs who are taking actions, creating solutions, and inspiring many. This podcast is supported by US Department of State, created by BBC Media Action, India.
Okay, what is as old as time? Nature. It's given us everything we need to survive. But in our race towards progress, we can sometimes lose sight of the balance needed to sustain these gifts, leading to overconsumerism and unsustainable choices. I'm Sayema, your host, and in this episode of Cool It Down, we are flipping the script. So if you're ready to swap out the bad stuff for some seriously cool planet-loving alternatives, stick around. We're about to talk to Vimlendu Jha, founder of Swecha India, a youth-focused NGO, and Saurabh Mehta, founder BioQ.in, to show you how to cool it down, one sustainable choice at a time. First up, let's hear from someone who's dedicated his life to greening our planet, Peepal Baba. With millions of trees planted across India, Peepal Baba is living proof that nature has the power to cool down our world. Peepal Baba, we are thrilled to have you here today. Peepal Baba, you have seen firsthand how trees can be our greatest allies, greatest friends in fighting climate change. Can you share how planting and nurturing plants can help cool it down?
I think the keyword is shade, right? So the more vegetation you have, the more leaves you have, the more tree cover you have, the more green cover you have, it cools the earth underneath that. So if you see, there are 53 countries which are there. The tree count, the tree cover is very less. Mainly West Asian countries and North African countries. So the temperature is always there. So the more vegetation you have, whether it is around the ponds, whether it's around the water bodies, whether it's a wetland, it's a grassland, it's a agricultural land, it's a forest, it's a temperate forest, it's a tropical forest, it's a rainforest, it's a mangrove, any kind of vegetation, So any kind of conglomeration of leaves and roots and plants, it cools down because this is the kind of intelligence which the technology which the planet has developed for its own existence and sustenance for over 400 million years, and this is evolution. So the problem is that now the Homo sapiens, the human race, is trying to cut down on that intelligence, is going to cut down on that entire vegetation and building its own cement and concrete based and whatever development work is there. So therefore, if you get the right proportion going, as per the population, the proportion of population, the proportion of development, anything man-made creates heat and pollution. Anything man-made creates heat and pollution. Even when I'm talking to you on this podcast, there is heat and pollution that is coming
That's
out.
right. Yeah.
Even our laptop, our microphones, everything, all kind of machinery, everything. Anything which is made by nature absorbs heat and pollution. So the whole algorithm of climate change needs to be understood in this context, that we need to be very careful what we are creating, right? And not to interfere in the cosmic intelligence, which has, the coding, the software, the algorithms it has sent, it has, created over 400 million years. And we are trying to disturb that. That is the whole equation.
You're doing a stupendous work of healing the nature. While, we go about damaging it, you are healing the nature. To the extent that you have changed your name, you have named yourself on the name of a tree, which is Peepal. I'd like to ask you this. Have you also named your trees on human beings' names?
No. I think human beings, we've had enough of human beings. So I don't think so. I would like to do that. And as far as my name is concerned, it was actually, it's a kind of a world record that I have planted 1 crore 27 lakh people trees which are surviving. Of course, we have done double the number of saplings, but the surviving ones are 1 crore 27 lakh. And that is why the media, the society, communities, the village, the panchayats and the rural areas, the villagers, for the last 30 years, they have nicknamed me Peepal Baba. So this is the way, because they identify. And one very interesting fact about the peepal tree, that's the only thing I would like to share, though it is a keystone species, very important for the biodiversity, very important for birds, animals, insects, is that it has a lot of spiritual significance. It has mythology, it has religion, right from Gautam Buddha to, so many spiritual masters have sat under the peepal tree, and they've gained whatever knowledge they got. So many people believe we should not plant the peepal tree. It's a divine tree. But during childhood, when I saw so many trees being cut because of the widening of the highways and roads in India, so my grandmother insisted that since nobody is planting, no department, no forest department, no horticulture, gardening departments, no individuals are planting, you must plant those trees which are not being planted by human beings. So that's why I started this campaign 47 years ago. It's been 47 years now I've been planting it. But I plant about 150 species of trees. But I got, I don't know, but people nicknamed me after the peepal tree.
Very interesting. And one last question. You've been doing this for the last 47 years. What changes have you seen in the attitudes of people? Do you think that the future is in the right hands? Are people aware enough? Are they doing enough to, heal our nature and actually just make it bloom further?
Honestly, till about 2019, I was a little, feeling low, feeling that enough is not being done. Whether it's the governments, the authorities, individuals, associations, NGOs, trust not. But then a beautiful thing happened called COVID. And then the pandemic came. Now, these 2 years, it really shook everybody up.
That's
and
right.
People who never talked to us about these issues, they have started contacting us. And the best part is that schools are taking interest. Youth is taking interest. Social media is taking interest. When we started on social media exactly 14 years ago, there was nobody else on social media who was doing that. So everybody used to make fun of us. But now, millions of people are doing it. And that is why I'm very hopeful. After the pandemic, I have become very hopeful. Things will definitely improve. Because we are talking in terms of individual action. We are talking about individual social responsibility. We are definitely talking about individual carbon footprint. So this is something, an individual sustainability footprint. So these are positive things. And I think even at this age, after 47 years, I'm 58 years of age. And I think I would love to see the planet being treated with more love and affection and more care by the citizens, by Homo sapiens, because we need to understand, after all, God created such a beautiful space for us for over 400 million years. Nature created, the cosmic intelligence created, and we have come here. We have a shelf life of only 70 to 80 years, or maybe 85 or 90 years on this planet. And I think I'm very hopeful that we will understand this importance.
That's very, very well said. And it was so heartening to hear that you are so hopeful. We're going to borrow that hope from you. And we are very optimistic that when people like you lead the generation is bound to learn the right way. And as you said, after COVID, actually a wonderful thing happened. And I thought, listen, this is what we need to do. We need to find opportunity in calamity. The way you've been going ahead, I think a lot will follow, and all of us will be there in this mission. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you so much for being a guest on Cool It Down.
Thank you.
In this episode, we are diving into nature-based products, the eco-friendly alternatives that are popping up everywhere. Sure, they might seem a little expensive or harder to find, but with the right mindset, they can kickstart a lifestyle that's not just good for you, but great for the planet. Let's talk to Vimlendu and understand why our choice matters. Welcome to the podcast, Vimlendu.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you so much for being a guest on Cool It Down.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for being a guest on Cool It Down. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you so much for being a guest on Cool It Down. Thank you so much for being a guest on Cool It Down. Thank you so much for being a guest on Cool It Down. Thank you so much for being a guest on Cool It Down. Thank you so much for being a guest on Cool It Down. Thank you so much for being a guest on Cool It Down. Thank you so much for being a guest on Cool It Down. Thank you so much for being a guest on Cool It Down. Thank you so much for being a guest on Cool It Down. Thank you so much for being a guest on Cool It Down. Thank you so much for being a guest on Cool It Down. Vimlendu, I will start, right up. We are talking, we are living the word consumption. And consumption is here to stay. For every real and perceived need, there are multiple products. How is overconsumption related to climate change?
See, I think consumption per se is not a problem historically, as in we've been consuming, we are, and therefore we consume,
Right.
and we consume, and therefore we are. But the problem that we are actually facing today is about the nature of consumption and the quantity of consumption at what cost and at whose cost. So right now, when we look at consumption from the lens of climate, because we are actually looking at the implication that perhaps consumption has on our planet's climate, it's really, really huge, because at the end of the day, every material that is actually there for us to be either bought, consumed, or thrown in the dustbin, post-consumption or pre-consumption, in that sense, everything comes from a natural resource. And we've all heard this, that there's finite resource that we actually have. We don't really have infinite resources. So the challenge is that when per capita consumption increases, when people's ability to consume increases, or more than that, people's ability to waste increases, that's when there is a red flag. And that's what we're actually seeing in terms of our river bodies going dry, our forests being plundered and cut, and the implication that it actually has in the form of different kind of climate events, particularly in India, that we've been seeing in last several years, from heat waves to flood to drought to air pollution crisis to erratic rainfall and climate events in that sense. So it's a very, very dangerous era that we're getting into. Consumption otherwise sounds very, very beautiful, because it almost sounds abundance, but hidden behind this idea of consumption is not abundance, but is going to be scarcity, and scarcity for the poorest of the poor.
Vimlendu, this is so interesting that you did not even waste a breath jumping from consumption to the concept of waste. And that's exactly what I intend to ask next. Is some waste more equal than other waste? How do you categorize? And how do the materials that go into making these products determine if the products will be better for the environment during manufacture, use, and disposal?
See, every product is made from our nature. So when we say that is a particular product eco-friendly, nothing is supposedly eco-friendly, because it is at the cost of the eco, or at the cost of the ecological resource. But at the same time, so that's the production of a particular product that we're talking about. The challenge is actually with waste, which is about the disposal of it, where something which is eco-friendly or perhaps say biodegradable actually takes lesser time or integrates with nature sooner than later, versus this entire culture of non-biodegradables that we have. So, we've all moved towards a culture of convenience, or culture of single use, or culture of disposal. And in the culture of disposal, mostly what we are actually disposing or consuming, or which is something which is factory produced, is largely non-biodegradable products. And in that, plastic, for example, is one of the main burden that the planet is facing. And of course, when we talk about plastic, clearly we talk about plastic, and we talk about microplastic, we talk about marine life, we're talking about the amount of plastic that is there in our seas, in our river bodies, and in our own body in that sense. So, it's waste is different. There are different kinds of waste that we have. We'll all lead a very, very wasteful lifestyle, unfortunately. And some form of waste is more harmful than the other. And that's where perhaps a lot of conversation needs to happen. And in our country, for example, there's something called extended producer's responsibility, where a producer is supposed to be taking back every piece of post-consumption garbage is supposed to be their responsibility, or for that matter, the ban on a particular form of plastic or single-use plastic. But the challenge that we've been facing is in terms of, do we actually execute those norms or those rules, be it legal, societal, or ecological, that we have made for ourselves?
Vimlendu, you spoke about culture of disposal. I want to come to the culture of ease of living, or the culture of luxury, as we might call it, because surely we also recognize that some things do not come into the category of necessity. But How have you seen this? Have you seen the culture of, ease of living? As you said, that we've moved towards convenience more, and thereby using single-use products, indiscriminately using materials which have a very, very, poor life cycle. How all of this has had a larger impact on climate change? Do we have some data to support? Do we have observations? Have you done some studies? Can you share them with us?
So there are a lot of studies, as I said, with regard to plastic. There are several conventions, there are several research studies specific to India, and also overall in terms of the amount of plastic that we're actually generating, and the health impact that it actually has, from a newborn baby to a fetus of a mother to our cows and buffaloes. There's plastic everywhere, and all of that actually has an impact. So, when we talk about waste and when we talk about the climate impact of our waste, or of this kind of ease of living waste, the first challenge is of resource extraction, the overt, extraction of resource that happens because there's an increased demand for products, and that leads to really competing in terms of production. Of course, when we're talking about all of these products, most of these are primarily factory made. We're not even, handmade is a good fad. It's wish that everything was handmade, but certain limitations of quantity of production means that it's all factory produced, which means that there's also manufacturing emissions that we're talking about. And then, of course, we talk about transportation, and we're talking about the entire range of things. So the chain of challenges, the climate challenges that we actually face in terms of ease of living. So it becomes a very oxymoronic concept to call something ease of living. Well, in short term, you might think there is convenience in your life, or there's ease of living, or ease of a lifestyle, or a better quality of life. But actually, it's not better quality of life. It's better standard of living at the cost of quality of life that we all are actually getting into. So right now, we might have a fancy shopping bag, but the environmental cost of that shopping bag, or the environmental cost of that single straw that we use, so that we don't need to look fancier or to make our life easier, is huge. It actually is at the cost of our natural resource, our Mother Earth.
Vimlendu, what would you suggest? How do we come out of this myopic, way of living where we are just focusing on the need at that point of time and just fulfilling it? How do we kind of zoom out and look at the entire situation and become aware and conscious about it? What's the way out?
I think, the solution to this is in two ways. One is short-term, medium-term, long-term approach to finding a solution to this, because, we have taken so much time and we have worked so hard to be in this climate disaster era. We can't really, revert to a beautiful era immediately. And therefore, there needs to be a short-term, medium-term, long-term plan. And the other is that we also will have to look at what can I do individually, individual action or reaction to, or choices to be made, the collective action and reaction that we need to make as a society. That's where we talk about cultural shift in many, many ways. And then we have to look at governance being one of the key stakeholders. So when we're looking at how do we reverse the culture of consumption, or culture of almost pervert consumption, it will take time and it will need cultural shift. Indeed, there are trends, and the current generation is perhaps more aware of implications of their behavior or their lifestyle. But a lot of that is very, very influencer based, in terms of you save a tiger on Instagram. No, you'll have to save the tiger by going to a forest, or by changing your actions. So just by participating or making a reel, you can't save the planet. Saving the planet is a full-time task that needs to be done on the ground and with your own bare hands, rather than clicking on a site called Save the Planet. Just clicking or signing up for Save the Planet will not save the planet in that sense. So we will have to look at that cultural shift. We will have to look at, reflect on our individual behavior. And as a society, we will have to start reflecting on the implications, because it's no more theoretical. At one time, of course, climate change, or the implication of climate on our life, was very, very academic. We were told that this might happen. But right now, if you look at the things around us, it's not just theory. It's actually happening around us. Those climate events are, on our face. Heat wave is actually happening. People are getting displaced. Right now, when we look at Delhi, for example, every third child actually has asthma because of bad air quality. So when you have those data points where citizens need to really not read it in an academic scholarly article about climate change, but they've started feeling it. The sweat, the heat, the pollution, the implication of climate change is under our nose today, and therefore it solicits immediate action. And that immediate action needs to be done at an individual level, at a collective level, and also at the level of governance.
I'm glad you touched that because that's the focus of the entire podcast. We talk about what I as an individual can do about it and what I as somebody who wants to make it my business can do about it. So I'm going to come, to you for those individual tips. What can I do, Vimlendu, at a personal level? Those 5 little points that I can adopt to actually achieve our goal of cooling it down.
Okay, so basically each to his or her own, right? As in each one of us are individuals. We have our own likes, dislikes. But a lot of times we fall prey to a culture, the pure of consumption, the pure pressure of consumption in that sense. And therefore, one of the things that perhaps you need to look at, each person, each one of us will have to look at it, that what is my need and what is my want, or in the sense, greed. Each one of us will have to look at our own carbon footprint, not because somebody's asked us to do that. It is not, it's not as if there's going to be a FIR or you'll be implicated, you'll be imprisoned because you've actually consumed a little extra. It's your own personal call, personal responsibility, personal accountability, or the idea of citizenship, be it local citizen or a global citizen, and look at, do I really need that extra pair of jeans, or do I really need to take 5 plastic bags each time that I go to buy vegetables? Do I need to really take my car out for a small little buying of milk shopping spree that I go on? A lot of those calls, a lot of those choices will have to be made at an individual level. The other is that we will have to, each one of us will have to start looking at, where is my product coming from? The source of it. It cannot, your water cannot be coming from a water purifier. It comes from a river. Your air doesn't come from an air con. It comes from nature and trees and atmosphere. Therefore, you'll have to really make that connection, that everything that we're consuming, our nature is not produced in factory. It is coming from our surrounding, and therefore we need to preserve it. Similarly, in terms of post-consumption, where is my waste going? Just because you have thrown it in the dustbin, that perhaps might look very, very civic responsibility type, but that need not be an ecological responsibility in that sense. So just because you've thrown it in the bin, your responsibility is not over. Can we actually delay the life cycle of a product? Can you think before you actually put it even in the dustbin in that sense? And that's where perhaps some of the work that we do is to upcycle, to look at, before it reaches the landfill, can I extend the lifespan of a particular product? Can I reuse it? As India has had that culture. Imagine a sari that my mother or my grandmother wore was later used for making a parda or a curtain or a mop or something else. So that we all were not taught upcycling or conservation or environmentalism or environmental stewardship. It was ingrained in our culture, and we need to go back to that culture or that understanding that there are finite resources, there are certain lifestyle changes. We will have to start saying no. We've been talking about saying no about various other issues around us, other societal, cultural issues. We'll have to start saying no about climate-related issues as well when it comes to issues of consumption. Nobody is going to be a superstar by consuming more. With less consumption, with a more conscious consumption, with a more sustainable consumption, there will be enough for everybody forever.
Perfect. So personal policing on the needs and consciousness about the source of the product, waste disposal is my responsibilities. All these things need to be written down, in front of the wall so that we keep getting reminded of all these goals. These are the personal goals we can go with. What about people who want to make it their business? Do you see opportunities for entrepreneurs to follow this as a passion as well?
Yeah, waste is a resource. And we've seen in the last 2 decades, there's several enterprises that have actually come that look at waste not just as something to be to be discarded or to be not looked at, but waste as money. And with more conversation around circular economy globally in terms of material economy, bringing in material back post waste into the cycle of production, there is a great opportunity there. As in repair, as a culture, bringing in resources, reusing, creatively reusing, all of that as a culture is an economic resource as well. Because at the end of the day, waste is something that only complements your material needs. So if you need something right now, if you look at people when they make wallets or make all kinds of products that people are making around the country with waste, it actually delays the process of our landfills. And imagine the landfills are overflowing. They're actually toxic hotbeds. They're contaminating our water bodies. They're contaminating our air. They're mostly on fire. In Delhi, in Mumbai, in many other places that we've actually seen these landfills becoming epicenters of toxic environment in that sense.
So true.
So waste is an opportunity. Upcycling waste is a great business opportunity. There are several enterprises that have actually come in India that looks at, creative reuse of plastic. And again, I'm not talking about recycling here, because recycling means breaking down of a product further. I'm talking about upcycling, where you actually upgrade the product. So a plastic bag, which perhaps was of no use post-use, can perhaps be made into a bag or a dress or a wallet or a curtain or something fancier than the prior use it was. So value adding waste, delaying the process of throwing waste to the ocean or to your river bodies or to the landfill is something which makes ecological sense and also makes economic sense.
Isn't this fabulous? There are so many business opportunities out there. And Vimlendu, I think, we need to choose our heroes wisely. I think people we follow in real life should be the ones setting up examples for cooling it down. Thank you so much for joining us in this podcast. It was a lovely conversation.
Thank you, Sayema. It was a privilege talking to you.
Curious about joining this green revolution? Stick around. We're about to talk to Saurabh to explore entrepreneurial opportunities that are sprouting up from production to recycling. Thank you so much, Saurabh, and welcome to this podcast where we intend to cool it down, make it our business, do anything and everything that we can to actually help our planet and be good to it in some way. Thank you so much for joining us. And first question that I really want to ask you is about your venture, which is very interesting. Making nature-based products clearly has a positive effect on climate change. But what are the challenges that you've been encountering in your journey?
Okay, so I primarily have been working in the stationery space. So our industry has been rather slow to change. If you think about it, like pencils, they have been the same for the last 70, 80 or even longer. So nothing much has changed in this for decades, and pretty much the same designs and rather no consideration for the environment. Also because back then it was not really a concern, but today it is. So 7 years ago, when we started our venture BioQ, where we brought in biodegradable products, pen, pencils and other stationery items, we often heard that these products aren't meant for the Indian market. Customers don't really care for sustainability or eco-friendly stuff. And also there was a perception in the market, which was that eco-friendly, since it was mostly handmade, which was like it qualifies as lower quality, like people will, it will be excused for having lower quality. And which was like, it did like add up. If you're trying to replace something, it has to be equally good. So we decided like, let's prove all of them wrong and create products which are not just sustainable, but also offer great value for money and are high on functionality. So if you're making pens and pencils, the first thing is they have to write well. You have to feel good when holding them and using them. So which of course wasn't easy, especially when you are competing against an industry which has been there for decades, has evolved, has drastically lowered the cost and upscaled the production over the like 70, 80 years. So it was no small task. And also in our case, the material, the natural material that we use, be it recycled waste paper or bamboo, these are all biodegradable. So they have their own set of challenges like durability and like moisture can affect the product. Like, so simply taken,
Right.
like if something is biodegradable, it means it will eventually break down. And balancing that with the product longevity, that was a real challenge, and it still continues to be. So yeah, like many different sides to it, like the kind of challenges that do exist.
So I hear you, Saurabh, that when you launched BioQ, you were very, very conscious of the fact that you are entering into a world where there's a lot of value to the appeal of the product, and the acceptability has to come with all the cosmetic changes, and you had to actually match that for to be able to enter the market. BioQ is a company that has stayed focused on sustainable products made out of waste. How have you stayed on the path, and what are your motivations in a market that is only just beginning to make a conscious shift to a lifestyle that you cater to?
Yeah. So, see, there's very interesting thing. So, in our case, the raw material is actually cheaper. It's lower in cost if you compare with the traditional ones. So, for example, plastic, that's around 100 rupees per kg or even higher. But in case of recycled paper or bamboo, the cost is 30 rupees per kg, like 3 times less expensive. However, the challenge is in the processing. How do you convert that raw material into usable products? So the machinery and the setup required for making such sustainable products is different. Like the traditional ones won't work. Most of them won't work in our case. And they're also more expensive because the demand for those machinery is not high. So thus the overall processing cost really becomes really increases the overall cost of the product. And also like many processes and systems need to be redesigned and reinvented because they don't exist. So in a market that's just like beginning to shift, we are pretty much forced to produce smaller quantities, which means more manual work, which is leading to higher cost, and higher cost means lower volumes, and there's a vicious cycle that goes on, and so we kind of get stuck and becomes difficult to compete. But like having like even with all this, like theoretically we know that it is necessary and also possible to make products at better prices which can actually functionally better as well. So like the products that are good for people and planet is actually possible. It's not a dream. Like it's actually very much possible. So like nature has so many different materials to offer, and they're hardly explored. Even like bamboo, if you take for example, it's like mostly people are now seeing products made out of bamboo like for the last 10 years. But bamboo has always existed.
Right.
Similarly, there's so many grasses, so many other products which are not being tested, and relying on plastic for pretty much everything that you want to make. It's not just about lower cost that people are choosing plastic. It's also a sign that how we have limited our imagination and willingness to try new things and change things. So yeah, it's a huge opportunity, but of course there are obstacles right now.
So, Saurabh, clearly there are challenges, and all our budding entrepreneurs who are all ears listening to you because they also want to make it their business. It's very inspiring to hear that you're constantly telling yourself that there is so much that we can explore and we have to keep going. That's what I hear from your conversation. But I really want to know that with so many challenges and difficulties ahead, which I think, every entrepreneur who intends to make it his or her business will come across, how do you stay motivated?
As I've told you, like theoretically, it is possible to make products which are better for the planet, and also for like in terms of affordability. So yeah, like I don't know. So there are like too many things, like making new things which are actually creating some impact. People giving great feedback. Then you feel like, okay, let's make this even better. And so like what I keep telling myself and everyone else is that sustainability is not a destination, it's the journey. Right. So once you know that, like you keep working towards improving what you have. You cannot be the perfectly sustainable company or a brand or a product. Nothing like that exists. So it's only like, how do you make it a step better? So when you see those things happening, then like, yeah, there's always a push. Like, okay, today it's maybe we have reached reduce plastic to maybe this much percentage. Maybe next we'll further reduce to like another degree, and like, yeah, keep doing that.
Small goals leading to the bigger destination. And I also understand and feel that I think consumer feedback is so important. Whenever we are feeling positive about something, a nature-based product that we are using, we need to give that positive feedback for the entrepreneur and the entire team to feel inspired to keep going. Saurabh, I have to ask you, is there a way to quantify the positive outcomes of your work, in terms of carbon emissions or sustainable livelihoods or reduction in landfill load? How would you quantify your work as far as positive outcomes are concerned?
Like, impact could be could be measured in many different ways, but I mostly like to focus on the environmental side of it, like the sustain, like the planetary impact. And in our case, that's very simple and straightforward to calculate. So if I talk about pens, so pen is very interesting. Nobody sees them like the plastic as the packaging. So if you think about it, you write with the ink and the tip in the pen. That's the functional part. And that's merely 5% of the entire product.
Yeah, that's interesting.
So you don't write with plastic, yet the plastic, which is 95% of the product, like, it's just there to keep the functioning part together. You don't write with plastic, but it's there, and 95% of it. And all of this plastic is non-recyclable because there are like all these small parts, so they can never be recycled after like you are done with pens. So our idea was simple, like to eliminate all of this 95%, like just like throw it away and replace that with bamboo or recycled paper. So we did exactly that. And our pens have only the ink in the tip, and rest is all biodegradable, either paper, waste paper, or bamboo. That's it. And this was never been tried. So, and the moment you do that, like, so every time we sell a pen, we know like 6 grams of plastic, non-recyclable plastic, will not end up in landfill. And then you multiply this by 50 billion in a year. That's the potential of impact that we could make with such a product. And similarly for pencils, you take the same concept in pencil, you write with the graphite, yet the body is there, which is maybe like almost 90%, and that's wood. Wood comes from trees. So if you eliminate that wood and replace that with newspaper or any waste paper, you are actually like, for every 8,000 pencils, you're saving a tree. So we save like about 2,000, 2,500 trees every year. And it's not just about saving trees. It's also about all the CO2 that those trees will absorb. So you're also saving that. So the impact is pretty straightforward. And because we are like eliminating and not reducing, so it's not complicated. There's no explanation required. And what we love to call it, it's an eco no-brainer. It doesn't confuse people.
Saurabh, I'm fascinated with stationery, and you've lured me with, all the products that you've been speaking about. BioQ, nature-based pencils and pens, where can we purchase them? Are they available online?
Yes, we mostly sell on Amazon. And the new product, which is the like world's first and only plastic-free pen, so that's available on our website. It's a different website, thenote.earth. So Note is the new brand for the pens, and that's like no offense to earth. So again, the idea was to have a eco no-brainer pen, right? Like you can have like guilt-free writing. There is no plastic that you will be disposing of if you use this pen.
Oh, I promise. All my friends are getting this pen, in their next birthdays, for sure. Saurabh, is it true that the youth engage more with these products, and also the philosophy of your enterprise? Do you see the demand and the desire becoming more universal? Are people accepting it more? Are people demanding it more?
The answer is complicated. It's both yes and no. So if I talk about like BioQ currently is very B2B. Like our focus has been in the institutional sales. So they resonate very well with the corporates who are looking to showcase their sustainability initiatives. So stationery and gifting these are like low-hanging fruits. It's an easy switch to make and not that expensive. So to demonstrate their sustainability commitment, like it's easy for us corporates and great for us, so that we can obviously make sales. So I would say like a good chunk of youth population are more engaged with the products that we make, and they also understand the philosophy behind them. Uh, and similar to us, like even like most of the sustainable brands are targeting them, but this is not the entire youth population or the entire population who's buying products, stationery, if we specifically talk about that. So if I be honest, there's the huge segment of population for whom philosophy or sustainability doesn't matter. For for them, the cost, the aesthetics, functionality, that will matter.
Yeah.
And if we are able to target them, that's where the real impact lies. So like even like today, as of today, my client base is slightly premium. Often they often purchase the products for the novelty, or just because they're eco-friendly, or for gifting, as you just said.
Yeah.
Right? Like you would want to gift an eco-friendly product to a friend. But when it comes to you like using it for yourself, either you are a like super eco enthusiast, or you find value in the product.
That's right.
So what we have failed as an industry, like I mean, till now, I wouldn't say we have failed, we haven't succeeded yet, is to create those level of products. So the real shift will happen when everyone has access to cost competitive, sustainable products that don't compromise on functionality, and like basically it's not forcing them to choose between planet and pocket. So once we reach
Yeah.
so
Yeah. You just said it.
like because I mean how we realized that we saw that maybe like 5-10% people will pay in premium for sustainable products, but then you're not really creating an impact, because the 90% is still doing the regular like polluting product. So that's not really going to be helpful if everybody is just targeting that 5-10%, that's easier youth population or eco enthusiast. So it's very important to make products for that mass market at great prices, and products which appeal to them. So that's what we really want to do. We are of course struggling, like to make shiny products from waste is a challenge, but that's the only way I see to make a bigger impact.
So this is very interesting, and I think it's one of the challenges that all the budding entrepreneurs who are tuned in, listening to how to make convert this into a business model. This is one of the challenges in front of them. But I really want to hear it from you, Saurabh, that yeah, I mean, it's become a very generic term. We talk about sustainable nature products, and most of these are competing in a narrow space of climate conscious consumers.
Yeah.
What would you offer as a word of advice to entrepreneurs who are thinking of venturing into similar space, on making their offerings distinct and sharper, and like you said, more massy?
So number one, I think like this is a great time to enter this industry, because the environmental awareness or people talking about sustainability, like it's at all-time high. And then you also have designs. Like there's so many products that you will realize, okay, this could be made in such a in a much better manner, much more sustainable. So of course the opportunity is there, but then there is a lot of responsibility, because as I said, like the mass market. So there are people, I would say, like even people who think they understand sustainability, even them, and definitely the mass market, we are confusing. They confuse or interchangeably use terms like organic, green, natural, compostable, eco-friendly, recycled or recyclable, sustainable, compostable. Like they don't understand the difference. They're not same. And when they don't understand, it actually creates confusion and also provides an opportunity for corporates to do rampant greenwashing. Like the way recyclable is used in so many packages, like it makes me angry, right? Like only because the customer is not able to understand they just like what recyclable means. They just think it's a good, like it's a product which is good for the planet, but which is not true in so many cases.
So they're almost misleading, yeah?
It's misleading, yeah. And because the customers don't understand, and that's where there's an opportunity and also like the responsibility of the brand, like to educate via their products what these terms are. So not mislead, but rather educate. That's the potential. And also like consumers don't learn only in schools and media, right? Like there's even brands they trust, they follow. There's opportunity for them to learn from them, and that's an opportunity for the brands to actually educate their customers in the right manner about the right things, which thankfully is happening in a lot of other industries, but in sustainability it hasn't really happened yet. So that's one thing that must be done. And beyond that, like I think, as I said, like it's a great time if you are curious, if you start questioning that why are certain things being made in certain manner, just because they are being made for like in that manner for the last several decades doesn't mean it cannot change or it shouldn't change. So for me,
Right.
I get angry looking at bad designs and unsustainable products. And if people, like, you feel angry, like channelize that angry into creating real solutions, which will create some impact.
That's well said.
And one more thing, Sayema, like they're like because in the current era we're less patient. So and that's the key, right? Like it change doesn't happen overnight. You have to be patient. You have to be persistent.
Yeah.
And as I said in the beginning, like sustainability is not a destination; it's a journey. You have to keep improving. You will never create the most sustainable, the perfect sustainable product. But the goal is to keep improving and making things more sustainable. So yeah, like
your patience personified is all that I can say, and I can hear there are so many challenges there, but I think with the spirit and enthusiasm that you've been displaying, if the entrepreneurs who are tuned in right now, who would be listening to us, if we borrow even 40% of what you have, I think we'll be able to get somewhere. We'll be able to cool it down eventually.
Yeah, really hope so. And yeah, like I'm just like there's so much to do. Like I'm excited like how things will be in the coming years. Like people will come up with great solutions, great ideas, and implement them. And with like persistence, of course, like we can actually make sustainability the norm and not just a choice. Like it could be the default for so many products around the world. Really looking forward to that. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Saurabh. It was very, very inspiring to have this chat. And thank you for all that you've been doing. We really look forward to a whole lot of stuff that you would be guiding people into and taking forward. Thank you so much for cooling it down in your own way.
Thank you.
Today, we spotlight the innovators making sustainability the new cool. As an individual, especially as youth, it's time to move away from unsustainable, toxic products and start choosing natural, sustainable alternatives across a wide variety of categories. Small shifts in daily choices can lead to big changes for the planet. For entrepreneurs, now is the time to innovate. Explore and pursue entrepreneurship and employment opportunities related to nature-based and sustainable products. Sustainable, nature-driven solutions are not just needed, they are the future. Your ideas can make eco-living scalable and accessible for all. So that's it for now, folks, but the world needs a lot more ideas and a lot more guidance. That's exactly what's coming your way in our next episodes of Cool It Down. Stick around.
Cool it down. Let's make it our business.